Today, we'll be flying on the stunning new business class by All Nippon Airways. We'll be on board this flight for 10 hours from Los Angeles all the way to Tokyo to kickstart my long-awaited 2-week trip to Japan. With incredibly spacious seats, a delicious multi-course Japanese menu, and free-flowing sake and champagne. Today's journey would begin with a visit to the United Polaris Lounge in Los Angeles, which is a quiet and peaceful space with beautiful tarmac views. There's a beautiful bar here in the lounge, as well as a private dining room where you can sit down for unlimited food from the a la carte menu. And overall, I'd say it's well worth the trouble to get out here to the Polaris Lounge if you're flying Star Alliance business class out of LAX. Now, the Polaris Lounge is in Terminal 7, whereas ANA flies out of the Tom Bradley International Terminal, and so it's a solid 20-minute walk between the two, which is great for getting your steps in before a long flight across the Pacific. It turns out that our ANA flight was slightly delayed, and so we waited at the gate for a little while before it was time to board. Now, ANA's new business class product is considered among the world's best, and it's not hard to see why as you step on board the cabin. The business class seats are so wide and spacious that you'd be forgiven for thinking that this is international first class. And on this flight, I took up residence in a backwards-facing window seat, seat 15K. Now, this seat is also known by its nickname, The Room, and as you sit down, it really does feel like one, with an incredible amount of space for me to spread out during this 9-hour flight. Straight in front of you, the first thing you see is the impressive entertainment screen, and underneath that, you've got a set of seat controls that's well within reach of your fingertips. The literature pocket is down by your side here, and then you can click this handle and slide the tray table all the way out towards you, folding it over into a very sturdy piece. Underneath the footwell, there's a storage space that's big enough to place your shoes, and then to the side, there's another space where you're not supposed to store anything, lest it get crushed by the seat's movement when it reclines. Now, popping back up here, we arrive at a spacious surface space, and then you can open up this compartment to reveal additional storage, a set of charging and USB outlets, as well as one of the best features of this seat, a vanity mirror. And last but not least, on your other side, you've got an additional USB port and a headphone jack. Alright, the last time we were flying ANA's older business class, we were going to Japan, but we were only in transit. This time we're on the new business class, and Japan is our destination. The country's finally open after 2.5 years, and that's something that we gotta drink towards. Here in rows 15 and 16, we had beautiful views of the engine and the wing of the Boeing 777 as we took off from Los Angeles, headed for our long-awaited destination of Tokyo. Alright, now that we're airborne, we've unlocked all of the seat features, including the most exciting thing about ANA's The Room business class. Let me show you. Specifically, you can press this button over here to pop out one of the doors horizontally, as well as this button over here to pop out the other door vertically. Once the doors are deployed, you have a pretty unbeatable sense of privacy here in business class, with only the slightest of gaps between the two doors. It really did feel like I had an entire private cocoon to myself as I settled in and began looking forward to the lunch service. I kicked things off with my first drink choice of iced green tea, and then I started browsing the menu to decide what I wanted to eat. Now, here on ANA Business Class, you have the choice between the Japanese washoku menu as well as a Western menu with more internationally inspired dishes. Now, you guys may know that usually when I'm flying Japanese airline, I'll always order from the Japanese menu. This time, though, I think I'm gonna mix it up a little bit. I'm still gonna order from the Japanese menu, but I'm gonna ask them if they have some extra steak on the side so I can give it a try. Soon, the Japanese meal service began, accompanied by a glass of the Nanbu Bijin sake. The first course would consist of the zensai, or a selection of tasty morsels, the kobachi, the tasty tidbits, and the otsukuri, the raw fish sashimi, all served on one tray. And although ANA's Japanese food has always left me impressed in the past, I have to say that this particular tray was more experimental than I've had before. I liked most of the items on the tray, but there were some things like the simmered cherry tomato or the deep-fried chestnut with rice cracker that just didn't hit the spot quite right. And in particular, the sesame tofu kobachi dish had a fairly strange taste and an even stranger texture. The sashimi dish, however, went a long way towards making up for the overall quality, especially with some soy sauce drizzled on top. After nibbling my way through the appetizers, it was time for the shusai, or main course. the simmered mackerel, and this was served alongside steamed rice and miso soup. Now I'm pleased to say that the main dish absolutely delivered and hit the high notes that I'm used to from ANA. It was salty and umami and went deliciously well with the rice and the pickles on the side. And as I had mentioned, this would be the flight that I finally try something new on Japanese airlines, the steak. So I would say the taste is pretty good. There's a pretty strong black pepper sauce slathered over the whole dish. The texture, it's not very chewy in the sense that it disintegrates in your mouth pretty quickly, and so it doesn't really have that tenderness that you're necessarily looking for in a steak. So I can't really say that I recommend going with the steak on the Western menu. Stick with the Japanese menu if you're flying ANA. And to finish off my lunch service, a cup of Haagen-Dazs ice cream. By the way guys, as I wrap up this delicious Haagen-Dazs vanilla ice cream, if you're curious how much I actually paid for this ANA business class flight, how I got myself into this spectacular seat in the throes of luxury en route to Japan, make sure to stick around to the end of the video when I'll share with you exactly how I actually used points to pay for this flight and barely had to pay any cash at all. Taking a look here at the bathrooms on board the Boeing 777 for business class, it really is quite a small one here. You've got the baby changing table. Underneath that's the toilet. And then something I really appreciate about ANA is they've got this fold down bench you can stand on if you're changing into your pants. But other than that, that's about it. It's a pretty tight bathroom for business class passengers. Other noteworthy features in the restroom included the Japanese-style bidet function, as well as a series of amenities that you could help yourself to freshen up. Now, speaking of amenities, let's head back to the seat to inspect the business class amenity kit. This kit is provided by Globetrotter, and it hasn't really changed much since I last flew ANA business class a few months ago. There's a few skincare amenities by a brand called Shiro, including face mist and lip balm, as well as your basic items like a dental kit and an eye mask. Now, with still about 6 hours of the flight left to go, I decided it was time to get a little bit of rest, and so I maneuvered the seat into lie flat mode to get ready for a nap. Now, they've just dimmed the lights here in the cabin, signaling the end of the meal service. I've had a lot to eat, and I do need to take a bit of a rest before resuming. As you guys know, if you've been watching the channel, there's still going to be the snack service, the rice bowls, the ramen, and then a second meal before arrival, but I'm going to wait a few hours before resuming the menu again. For now, I do want to show you around how wide this ANA business class seat is and just how much space there is. And I think the best way to do that is to go over there and bother Jessie. Are we gonna fit?
This is not comfortable.
Huh?
This is not.
Well, let's try fitting. That's pretty comfortable, right?
No, I mean...
That's nice. Now there's quite a lot to say about this unique lie flat product. First of all, you'll notice just the sheer amount of space. As we saw over in Jessie's suite, it's actually pretty much possible for two full-grown adults to cuddle next to each other side by side. Here, I'm just gonna take this pillow, put it behind me to get a little bit more comfortable. And you do have these two pillows that you can use to customize your bed position to your heart's desire. Now, ANA also gives you a mattress pad as well as a very comfortable blanket, so you can really get comfortable as you sleep. And I think that's going to be super useful for those overnight Trans-Pacific flights that you might find yourself flying on this product. On this flight though, it's a daytime flight from Los Angeles, so I'm just going to take a little bit of a nap at most. I don't want to sleep for too long. I want to land in Tokyo, it's going to be afternoon, and then fall asleep so I can get accustomed to the time zone. Now, most premium flights that I take, I'm usually not wishing for the flight to end. I usually want it to last for a long time, but this particular flight, we're landing in Tokyo, I wish it could end a little bit sooner. Okay, it's time for some staples from the snack menu now. We've got the citrus drink, we've got a vegetable soup that's served in a cup, and we've got a ginger pork rice bowl. This is just the first round of the snack menu, but I'm excited to dig in. But even after digging into the vegetable soup and the pork rice bowl on the snack menu, the best was still yet to come. Always my favorite thing about flying ANA, something that never gets old, and best of all, it's only a preview of what's to come on the ground. It's time for the bowl of ramen. you've always got this little box of butter, and you're supposed to put it into the ramen and have it melt inside. Delicious. This was super salty, super warm. I'm a little bit hot right now, and I probably need to take a little bit of a break before we start eating more food. I spent an hour or so catching up on some work before the second meal was served, with about 2 hours left to go until landing. Now, this second meal was noticeably mushroom forward, with mushrooms found in both the appetizer and the main dish. That was bad news for me, as I don't like mushrooms at all. However, I simply picked around it and still had a very delicious few courses in the end. And I have to say, even though the meal didn't get off to the best of starts on this flight, with a slightly disappointing appetizer plate, I still eventually got to experience the best of ANA business class, as the airline came through with excellent quality in everything else they served. And as if on cue, the crew came by to offer one last drink service, and I couldn't help myself from ordering a glass of the Duval Le Roi champagne as a celebratory drink as we approached Tokyo Narita International Airport. Alright, now that we're just about 30 minutes outside of Tokyo, let's talk about how I actually booked the flight. ANA's new The Room business class product here on the Boeing 777 is widely considered among the world's best business class cabins. And the good news is you don't have to be rich to pay for this flight. You can book it with points fairly easily and get a fantastic deal. In my case, I paid 75,000 Aeroplan points per person for this one-way flight from Los Angeles to Tokyo, plus a little bit of cash in the taxes and fees. Aeroplan points are really easy to earn in both Canada and the United States, with a variety of credit cards that you can get that give you big welcome bonuses that you can funnel towards your Aeroplan accounts. And what's more, not only did I get a great deal with 75,000 points per person, but I also booked this during one of the Amex 25% points back promotions, which means that I'll actually get 25% of the points that I used deposited back into my account after taking this flight. So in reality, I only paid about 56,000 points per person for this flight, and that's a deal that I'm pretty proud of. As we made our descent into Tokyo and I looked forward to spending the next 2 weeks here in Japan, I couldn't help but think back to the last time that I was here, when I was flying first class on ANA, the very same forward cabin that's a supercharged version of the business class that you just experienced. Watch this video next to find out what the ANA first class experience was like, and I'll see you over in that video on board a 13-hour flight from Tokyo to New York.